Senator Polley, your time's expired. Senator Madigan.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. I rise today to speak on the Social Services Legislation Amendment. I've been critical of this government's budget, Mr Acting Deputy President. It is quite possibly one of the most divisive and unfair budgets we have ever seen in modern Australia, and I am not alone in this view. I've received hundreds, no, thousands of emails and letters and phone calls from angry and disaffected Australians. They have told me this budget is unfair, unreasonable and ideologically driven. I and many others accept the government has budgetary challenges, but why should those with the least have to pay the most? Why should those thousands of good, hard-working Australians, those with families, those with mortgages, those who each day step up and step out and do the right thing, why should those who are struggling, those looking for work, impacted by disability, those who care for others, those who are sick, those on the pension, why should those Australians on low incomes be targeted by this ideological, some would say pathological, numbers-driven budget? Why should those with the least pay the most? Over the past 6 months, I have received a clear message from people across Victoria and across Australia. This is a bad budget. People have told me they are angry and distressed about changes to the New Start waiting period. They are angry and distressed about changes to Family Tax Benefit Part A and Part B. They are angry and distressed about changes to pensions. They are angry and distressed about changes to increasing the pension age to 70. I have often spoken about a constituent I know called Phil. Phil works in a forge and is supporting 5 children. He lives outside of Melbourne. Phil earns $43,000 a year, with another $8,000 on overtime. Phil's work is back-breaking work. Phil is a big and strong man with the strength and resilience of a draft horse. But he's often said to me, "John, I'll never last until I'm 70. Treasurer Joe Hockey expects Phil to keep doing what he's doing for another 24 years. I say to Mr Hockey, mate, you're dreaming. Mr Acting Deputy President, as usual, I'll be brief in my remarks today. I'll let my voting do the talking. But, Mr Acting Deputy President, as this legislation affects families and job seekers, I can't help but share my view. Families are the building block of strong societies. A strong family makes a strong individual. Strong people are the backbone of a strong country. The relationship between government and families should be one of mutual respect. Governments should support families. Forcing both parents to be in the workforce when the youngest child turns 6 is not the kind of help families need. It is not the kind of thing our nation needs either, because both the nation and the family are interdependent. Families are doing it tough. Most parents, particularly those in the paid workforce, recognise the importance of spending time with their children. But for hundreds of thousands of Australian parents, the financial concerns they face overshadow their ability to do this. And this is something our tax system and my amendments can address. House prices add to a family's financial burdens. Single and even dual income family first home buyers are forced to compete with baby boomer investors as well as foreign nationals to buy their home. Today in Australia, families are often second-class citizens in the housing market. Why don't we look at negative gearing, amongst other things? When will we look at the economy? When we look at the economy and job security, we must further consider how Australians can even focus their energy on their family. But we in this place, we aren't discussing legislation which will make it easier for these families. Instead, we are discussing how we can take more of their taxes away from them through benefits which were originally given to them in recognition of the important role they play. Take, for example, the removal of the current end of financial year supplement or the freezing of the indexation of the family tax benefit allowance or the removal of the child add-on supplement. This bill isn't about supporting families. It's about making life harder for them. Mr Acting Deputy President, I have circulated amendments which address these issues in a reasonable fashion. Most Australians are happy to do their bit, I believe. Most Australians are happy to take part in some of the heavy lifting our nation needs right now. But no Australian should be expected to break their back in the process. I would now like to address the issues surrounding the government's proposed changes to Newstart. Job seekers are in a tough job market. One only has to check the Ballarat Courier or the Latrobe Valley Express on a Saturday to see how many jobs are actually advertised. When the government allows the employment market to be flooded with 457s, what do we expect? When the government goads industry upon industry to leave our shores, what do we expect? When the government can't figure out how to manage its defence procurement needs over a long period, what do we expect? When the government can't figure out how to use our abundance of natural gas for our own cheap electricity supply, what do we expect? For these and many other reasons, Australians' expectations of this and other successive governments are at an all-time low. And why should it be job seekers, people who are prepared to work, people who want to work, people who are trained and equipped and who are able to work? Why should it be these people who are punished because of successive governments' poor decisions which have led or contributed to their redundancies? If people opt to work for the dole, then they should be entitled to their full allowance during the 6-month waiting period. If people have spent years studying as a student, then that period should be recognised as work to be deducted from the exclusion period. And if people would prefer to expend the exclusion period not working for the dole, but rather concentrating full-time on finding a job, then they should still be able to receive 40% in the Newstart rate. Mr Acting Deputy President, we must create hope. We must create opportunity. We must increase the cake, not diminish it. The future of our country and the welfare of our people depend on it. We often hear about business and individuals being told to innovate. It's about time the government innovated. Thank you.
Thank you.